Written by the Descendant. Narrated by Knit the Goldleaf. To His Majesty Prince Blueblood, Prince of Unicorns. From Her Majesty Princess Celestia, reigning sovereign of the Equestrians. Dear idiot, it's probably the donuts I'm currently ingesting at what best could be described as a monumental rate. But I had this sudden, irresistible urge to pop you off a letter stating how terribly you buggered up the gala this year. In case you were wondering, the pleasant little unicorn you trod all over this evening was a personal friend of my designate. That unicorn, Rarity, which is her name by the way, in case you forgot it while staring at every hunch that walked by, is a shop owner, noted designer, and a holder of one of the elements of harmony. In short, she's accomplished more in the last year, more than you done in your entire miserable, misspent life, you sad sack of sod. Her element is that of generosity, one of the 6 elements, which I believe is the same number of the visceral diseases you're currently being cured of, correct? It was my intent that, having let you meet her, you would either do one of 2 things. Namely, 1, risk the occasion and hold yourself with the grace of bearing of royalty. In doing so, you would shine forth the light of your ancestors, the progenitors of the unicorns, and show all who gaze upon you the ennobled form of the monarch. Or 2, be a total and utter knob. Though I dared for one fleeting moment to believe that you would take the first option, you, to the surprise of absolutely no one, drove into the second with the same foaming soberity with which you partake of those damnable big hunch magazines that you, despite my objections, continue to pursue. Speaking of hunches, I cannot help but notice the way your greedy eyes have taken to casting their 1 or 2 convenances over my sister, your sovereign, the Princess Luna Revenor. Mark my words, Blueblood. In the name of my father, if I ever see you seeing at her in that manner again, your title will be changed to Blueblood the Gelded. Swifter than you can say royal prerogative. Not that you'll be able to articulate multiple syllable words, but you can catch my drift. No doubt you were anticipating this letter being a reply to your recent correspondence asking for an increase in your royal stipend and allowance. I shall forego my planned response of go crawl under the nearest rug and lay there until you're smoothed to death, you gibbling twit. With a simple no, you gibbling twit. The purpose of the stipend is not, surprise surprise my dear, to pay for financing your ever-increasing hold of legitimate foals, alimonies, and hush-hush payment. It was instead meant to fund your lifestyle as you went about improving the lives of your people, namely my beloved subjects, the unicorns. And for the sake of the general knowledge, the term lifestyle here does not translate to seeing how many body shots you'll be able to down in one evening before crashing your chariot into the side of the mountain. When I was informed of your accident, I was terribly and worriedly sick. That mountain is a very dear friend to me. When I think of you, Blueblood, I wonder about your ancestors, the progenitors of the unicorns. I often wondered what they would have done had they been presented an opportunity to gaze into my pool of ends and see that their royal house would devolve to the point where your bloated self would be their scion. I guess that rather than establishing a dynasty that would last for thousands of years, They have taken the first opportunity to simply purchase some clever and sensible hats to disguise themselves and spend the rest of their lives as rock farming earth ponies. Speaking of rock farmers, one of my designator's other friends comes from an old family of geoculturalisms. This was brought to my attention by Twilight in an effort to divert me from having the pink pony embarrass herself with the telling of a recent fit of madness, wherein she apparently threw a wild party attended primarily by sacks of flowers and dust bunnies. I can only assure from the description of the event her crippling insanity that being presented at that little soiree would have been infinitely preferable than having to sit through another one of your drunken retellings of your benders, as you called them, and accounts of supposed and rather unconventionally fabricated friendships with any number of celebrities. As I sit here among Twilight Sparkle and her friends, consuming what the Falls today would most likely describe as an epic amount of doughnuts, I am overcome with disappointment. You are, of course, familiar with disappointment, are you not, Blueblood? Examples of it are chiefly seen in the faces of poor mares that you've given the princely bequeathing, as you call it, though each time you've chortled your way through its mentions, I vomited into my own mouth a touch. I am sure that one of the greatest gifts that I could ever give to any of my subjects is to return to each of those unfortunates the moments of their lives that they misspent in your lustful embrace. All 27 seconds of it. My disappointment in you arises not from some misplaced sense of nobility or property, my dear nephew, but from an understanding of who you really are, who you had, I should like to say have, but, well, the potential to be. Near me now is Spike, the summoner of my designates. You will remember, if the narcotics you breeze through at the rate which challenges the volume of water cascading over the precipices of Canterlot on a daily basis have not already numbered your memory, that he is the most recent descendant of the line of a certain dragon I have spoken to you about. When you were a young foal, how I used to love for you to come to the palace, and how you loved to hear the story of the dragon, and how he helped your sovereigns regain themselves. Oh, how dear he was to me personally, in those days when you and I could actually play at auntie and nephew, with all of your other cousins around and listen to the stories, and have our little tea parties in the garden. Your mark. You'll remember, if you can shake yourself off of whatever drug-alone stupor you're in whenever this note reaches you, came about when we were off on an adventure to find some of the places I told you about in those stories. Your mark is, of course, a compass, rose of gold and purple, just like the colors of that beloved dragon. That, in my mind, nephew, is the truest, depressing irony of the situation, that a pony whose mark is that of cardinal directions could so thoroughly have lost his way in life. None of your cousins in any other royal family gives me such fits. In recent years, the House of Pegasi have concluded new terms with the peaceful people on our western borders, and the House of Earth has developed a new farming technique that will allow us to feed our people into new abundance. In the same space of time, the palace of the House of Unicorn, under your tutelage gaze, has become known as the Gold Mine by the resident paparazzi of Canterlot, and has been subject to a number of suspicious fires. It is said among the royal guard that they determined their rank and status among themselves based on the horrors that they have witnessed in their loyal service to me. You should be interested to note that they consider being on your personal security details for a few months equivalent to being in continuous combat with our enemy for 7 years, including dismemberment. Speaking of my royal guards, the point of having those few attached to you is to keep you from harm if by some random chance a random deranged and utterly uninformed of our political situation pony should make the error of believing you are worthy of assassination. Therefore, it is of utter importance that you do not send them on beer runs. There is deep inside of me some cryptic part that would like to whisper to the guards how not entirely unfitting would it be that, if you were assaulted or being plundered mercilessly, that they should take some serious interest in the local flora and fauna. I would never let that happen, of course. It would look terrible for the pictures of the royal guard chasing butterflies to be found in the local papers. Oh, Blueblood, you must not think, upon reading this letter, your aunt hates you. Please never think of that. It's more akin to a general disgust at the thought of your existence, or revulsion at having to share the same continent with you. If it were possible for me to get grey hairs, you, sir, and I use the term loosely, would be responsible for my sudden descent into the state of monocolatorism. I remember many things, Blueblood. Your older auntie has seen things beyond your comprehension to imagine. My remembrance of ponies now dead and gone for millennia are as fresh in my mind as the nights mere decades ago that you as a foal spent sick and racked with fever. I remember the heat that fell from you as you huddled against my side as I stood for your mother and father as they wore away with worry, unable to sleep for the fear. I remember coming to them in your room the morning after you awoke. We had waffles, dozens. You were so hungry. Waffles, Blueblood, warm and slightly gooey on the inside. Waffles! Where is that bright-eyed foal, Blueblood? Where is that dutiful and responsible child? Where is that adventurous colt with dreams and hope I rejoiced in? Did he, in truth, died there in the dark? Did death claim him as he lay with his head resting on my flank, fighting for breath? Did he, like almost every pony else I've ever known and loved, gone down the long stairs into the well of souls? Are you in fact some demon? Are you some malicious soul claiming his body? Are you not unlike Nightmare Moon, who sought to steal my sister from me? As I thought that true nephew, I would have destroyed you utterly years ago. My rage would have been unshackled from the very foundations of Equestria, would have been rocked with it. My enemies, the enemies of my people, waiting as they are over these mountains, would have cowered in fear in their tower as the sound and fury of my wrath broke the chains of the sky. But I know that is not true, and I am left looking for more mundane reasons to explain your utter lack of sophistication. Now I am waxing poetic. It must be these damn doughnuts. They are unbelievably good. I'd seriously consider launching an investigation into these things, but I do believe I'd rather stand here and moan with pleasure at each bite. Yum. I remember other things, nephew, like your ancestors, the progenitors. I remember as they came down through the hills, my father calling them out of the heavens, how we alicorns promised to guide them, the royalties of each of the three tribes, how the Equestrians became one race through our teachings and benevolence, how we promised to be as a second family to them, how I, though not related to any of you by blood, became aunt to you and all of your cousins for generations uncounted, how I had taken the time to look into the future then, the timid fool I was. I would have had some scrub put into the writings, my duties, and have it checked by royal lawyers. You are not the first of your house to have such worrying effect upon me. In generations removed from you, higher than you can count, yes, damn more than 3, A relative of your mother was such an enthusiastic of buccaneria that his actions make your current lifestyle seem like some sort of teetotaling purism. I distinctly recall having to evacuate Canterlot to disinfect the city after one of his better nights. You will be better to note that I cured him from his uselessness to the ponies he was supposed to be serving. There is a statue of him in the market square if you'd like to see him, and if you are still able to go outside in daylight. You see, nephew, that's what we do with our heroes. We give them nice statues. He found himself out there, the pony he was supposed to be, in the mountains beyond the other three. How would you do out there, I wonder? There's always room in the ranks of my regular guard, the dirt-covered patriarchs who shield us from harm. I think it would be easier for you to determine your purpose, to recall your mark out in the wild and before our battle flags than in the nightclubs, don't you think? Don't worry, I'm sure I can find some pony to fill in for you whilst you're out there under artillery fire. Why, around me right now there are 3 unicorns I'd consider in a heartbeat. Even Joe, the proprietor of this shop, would be a better prince of unicorns. If I were to choose him, you would be out of my ungraving mane, and I should have doughnuts. You would think that my obvious choice would be Twilight Sparkle, as she is among the most wonderful students I've ever taught. But I have other purposes for my designate, something far beyond a mere symbolic regency. Of course, that brings us back to Rarity. Rarity, you will recall, if you are not tripping out of your mind, was the reason I sent you this letter. You see, she knows her own heart. It is in fact her heart that is reflected in her own outward beauty. My designate has provided me with enough evidence of what she is. In fact, what all of these ponies she surrounds herself with are made of, that I would be more confident in replacing you with her. Princess Rarity. Interesting. I'm sure there's a matter of protocol involved in replacing a prince. Most likely some daft ceremony. I'd expect that there would be letters of protest as well. I would put both of the letters in the manila envelope and send it down to records to be filled as hamdingers in a room marked Beware of the Cockatrice. This is of course all theoretical, and at the moment is undoubtedly being fueled by the pounding sugar high which is coursing through my body as I devour these decadent doughnuts. If I have even one more, I'm probably going to knight Joe. Forget that. Probably make him a landed lord. They are seriously that good. Blueblood, if this letter has been very hard for you to take, it is because I have such high expectations of you. I have suffered things that, no matter my current opinion of your ways, I would not even whisper to you, sparing you the emotional damage that their telling would cause you or any pony else to suffer. I have suffered these things because I love my ponies, my little ponies, who are so dear to me. I will not see my efforts and their hopes squandered for the benefit of a spoiled stallion whom was once a gentle colt. I hope to see dramatic improvements in your status, both as a prince, as a unicorn, and as an equestrian within the next year, Blueblood. If I do not then, well, we shall have to begin exploring our options. I am willing to help you do this, to turn your life around, as I always have been. All of my experience, power, and magic and might are at your disposal to help you do this. I believe you can. I know you can. I am, after all, an eternal optimist. And I do mean eternal. Love, Auntie. Princess Celestia interviews. Reigning sovereignth of the Equestrians. P.S. Do not try to find a new outfit before the next gala. You look like you're trapped in the 700s. Enjoy the enclosed doughnuts. Howdy, this is Net the Goldleaf. I don't usually do these things, and it's quite late at night, but I'm gonna do it anyways because I want to drop in some updates and explain my progress while making this fanfiction thingy. No, I didn't write it, I just did the audio drama for it. It was a challenge. So challenging, in fact, I probably shouldn't have done it in the first place, but it's been made anyways, so... One of my biggest problem with the fic, well, trying to read the fic at least, is that there were a lot of big fancy words, and I can't do big fancy words. So I had to use a online text-to-speech website that would help me read the words. Now, I originally had a sort of pre-planned voice for Celestia, but I was so focused on getting the words read correctly that I sort of ditched the voice entirely and sort of made my voice to be my normal voice, but little deep and regal. So, yeah. Now, the sequel for Blink is currently in the development. A few days ago, I did a second re-record because I didn't like the first attempt. So that's currently being scheduled. Yeah, that's about it. I don't exactly have any more words to say. So, yeah, good night, everyone.